Hola, 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 hola. Hola, soy yo, Vicky, otra vez. Now, I have a little apology to make this morning because I'm a little bit late with this members' questions video. Um, Normally, the last Friday of every month, any questions that members have sent to me, I do a video to address the questions. And this month, just what with everything going on, the floods in Spain and all the things that are going on, it was actually last Friday, wasn't it? Of course, because it was Halloween. Um, as well. And so, anyway, with one thing and another, let's just say I forgot to do the video. So I'm doing it today. And the question that so let me explain to you how this works. If you're a viewer or a subscriber of my channel, Learn Spanish and English, and also a little bit of crime thrown in and a little bit of current events from Spain. Lately we've been looking at the floods and the visit of the King and Queen to the affected areas, and they had mud thrown at them. All those, I've done videos and all those things that you can find on my channel. But the main thing is, of course, learning English and Spanish, though. I need to get back on top of that. Anyway, I'm waffling. One thing you'll learn is I do waffle a little bit. But in this video, one of my members, and thank you so much for all of you who are members, I've put the link there. Just let me tell you how membership works. You can join my channel. It's only $2.99 a month. And then you can send in any questions you want to my email, which actually I'll put here. This is my email, Vicky Marie Chats at arroba. Oh gosh, I've done it in capitals. Let me take the capitals off. Vicky Marie, Vicky with an I. So it's important to remember it's with an I because people often send emails and they don't get to me because they've done Vicky with a Y. Vicky Marie Chats. Gosh, you'd think it'd be a simple thing, wouldn't you, typing in an email, but no. Vicky Marie Chats at, which in Spanish is arroba. Some of you members out there, you might want me to do a video about computer terms, CVs, making letters, writing letters, official letters. These are all the things that members can suggest. Something that you might want to know, or it might be about Spanish grammar. You might want me to go over the subjunctive, or you might want me to go over por and para, or ser and estar, the usual suspects. So Vicky Marie Chats at gmail.com. So Vicky Marie Chats arroba email, I think they would pronounce it, .com. That's my email. What you have to do first is join. So here's the, this is a link for how to join. It's in the chat. Join, I say it's $2.99 a month. It's cancelable anytime. So basically, if you had a question and you joined to ask your question, get your video done, and then the next month maybe you didn't want to be a member anymore, you can just cancel. There's no minimum subscription, if you like. Well, of course, the most important thing is to subscribe. And it's funny, isn't it? It's called subscribing, but you don't actually pay to subscribe. You pay to become a member, but to subscribe to my channel is absolutely free. And also to like the video, which is very important for my algorithm, to press the thumbs up. Those are free ways you can help, and also by watching the videos, of course. So, right, let's get on with it. So yes, this member, thank you very much, has sent this question. They're thinking of moving to Spain, and they're thinking of moving to Spain and bringing their children with them. So they were asking me about schools, what I would recommend. Now, for those of you who don't know, I've lived in Spain for a long time, 25 years or more. 26 years probably now. I've brought up a child here, brought my son up here. So I know the do's and don'ts of Spanish schools, the good things, the bad things, the good, the bad, and the ugly about Spanish schools, because Spain is like any other country. It's got some positive things and it's got some negative things. And this is what I would recommend after my experiences here. If you're bringing children to Spain to come and live in Spain, of course, it depends how old they are. Now, if they're little ones, anything up to 11, really up to high school age, and maybe up to a bit less than 11, maybe up to 9, I would say, put them in the Spanish school. The junior schools here in Spain are brilliant in my experience, and not only mine. Just don't forget, I'm not only talking about my experience, I'm talking about the experience of friends and people that I've taken to interpret at schools. These things that I'm going to tell you about here, they're common themes. They're not just exclusive to my experience. So I would say that if your child is 9 or below, put them in the normal state school. The younger, the better. The younger you can get your child here, obviously, the better, because the more established your child is in their own language, in their own culture, in their own system, if you like, the harder it is for them to integrate into a completely different system. So if you're coming from Britain, for example, you will find the school system is completely different from the English system or the British system. Some things are better and some things are worse. Some things are much better and some things are much worse. And my advice would be, if your child is young, yes, put them in a state school. They will pick up Spanish very quickly. They'll be young enough to absorb a new language, to accept it, not challenge it. All those things. The little ones are like sponges. They learn by repetition. They learn by listening to what's around them. They just accept. Now, you may need a few classes for them. I would give them, if I was going back in time now, I mean, my son was a baby when we came out here, so he didn't need any Spanish classes because he's been brought up, he's probably more Spanish than English in some ways. But yeah, if your child, even if they're only about 5, if they're going to need some backup maybe in the beginning, just things like the vocabulary of the classroom, basic commands like sit down, shut up, these kind of things that they're likely to hear at school. All the things that you find in a classroom, they won't know those words, so they could probably do with learning those words. So I think little ones just need some fun vocabulary classes, just to rid them of any embarrassment that they might feel. And little ones don't feel so much embarrassment. That gets worse as children get older, because the older your child gets, the more self-conscious they're going to be in the classroom, trying to speak some Spanish when everybody else around them speaks fluent Spanish. They're going to be, that's something that comes with age, isn't it? We get very conscious about our appearance to other people, whereas little ones don't care, do they? They'll just repeat what somebody says. They won't care if they say it right, they say it wrong. So it's much easier for you, So I would say to you, if you're thinking of bringing a family over to Spain, do it as young as possible for them, because the older they get, the harder it gets for them to adjust, just like you, the more they get established with their own culture, their own language, the harder it is for them to just soak up another culture and another language. So, if your kids are little ones, I would say put them in the state schools. The state schools are brilliant in my experience, and not only my experience, but, my friends, etc. I've been to interpret for thousands of people at schools, and the junior schools in general, very good. very efficient. They'll learn things, that you think, oh my God, I don't even know about that. They'll learn grammar, they'll learn how to pronounce Spanish properly, because they'll learn all the little idiosyncrasies. They'll be listening to Spanish because they'll be in a state school with Spanish people. If you live in an expat area, it's a little bit more complicated, because there'll be a lot of other nationalities of children going to that school. And of course, children tend to, not when they're very little, but as they get older, will tend to sort of hang around with the kids that speak their language. And sometimes it can be a problem, because they'll rely on another child that's there at the school who speaks Spanish, and they'll rely on them for interpreting for them, when really they need to just, get thrown into it and have a go at it themselves. So just be aware of that. If you can send your child to a Spanish dominated state school, they will learn Spanish so much quicker. Now, the problems start after 9, I think 9, 10, 11, and then when it comes to high school. And I include, when I say the problems start, I don't mean for children who are just coming over. High school is a very strange place in Spain, I personally think. Some people do quite well at high school, but, my son didn't do well at high school, and it wasn't all the teachers' fault. I'm not blaming it all on the teachers, but it's the style of teaching did not suit my son. So it will suit some children. So let me explain to you what happens. So it's about, while children are in junior school, the one thing that is strange about the Spanish system, or difficult, I think, is the Spanish system is a little bit more like the American system, because you have to pass. Doesn't matter if there's no room in the Spanish system for individuality, in my opinion. So you could be a genius in maths. You could be a genius in maths, physics, all those scientific subjects, or you could be brilliant at the sort of more art subjects, but you have to pass everything. So it doesn't matter if you're a genius in maths, biology and chemistry, because you've got to pass 11 different subjects. And some of them will include music, drawing, plastica, as they call it. Now, if your child, my experience, anyone, not only children, they're either gifted in one or the other. And I do think the British system encourages individuality. So if you're not any good at maths, well, if you're good at English, or you're good at, drama, or if you're good at music, you can be good at an individual thing. I don't think you can in Spain, because, well, you could be, but you just still would fail. You would fail the whole year if you got, like the top marks, genius status in maths, biology and chemistry, but you didn't pass Musica, which is normally playing Titanic on the recorder, or you didn't pass Plastica, which is like manualidades, like, art. If you didn't pass all those things, you would get held back for a year. So I don't like that, because, in my experience as a teacher, someone who's good at maths is rarely good at art as well. People have different ways of, people are individuals, children are individuals, and they should be encouraged to do well what they do well, and not then made to feel like they've failed the whole year because they can't play Titanic on the recorder. So this is a bit of a bugbear of mine with the Spanish system. But it gets worse at high school, I think, because the teaching style changes completely at high school. I do think at junior school, the junior school teachers are brilliant, and I personally would not complain about the junior school. Even, when my son was in classes with teachers who didn't get on with that well, he still did really well in his exams, got like 9s and 10s and everything. but high school is sort of different. And to me, the teaching style in high school, it's more like university. It's just like, well, if you want to be here, great. And if you don't want to be here, well, don't come. It almost feels like that. There's not really any stimulation of the children, in my experience. Now I'm talking about the state schools here. So going back to what my advice would be, if your children are young, I would say, yes, put them in a state school. If your children are older, especially if they're only just coming over at 11 or 12 or 13 and going straight into high school, if you're able, because of course there's a financial implication here, put them in a private school. Put them in a private school, one of the British schools, where they will still learn Spanish, not as quickly as they would in a Spanish school. The thing is, if you throw them into a Spanish high school, they're going to flounder, because even people who speak Spanish flounder. There's some ridiculous amount, about 60% of young people in the Alicante region don't graduate from high school. 60%. Now that includes, obviously, it's not only expats, it's Spanish children too. So because of the system where children are held back as well, if they don't pass the whole, every single subject, even though they're probably not interested in them, what you end up with then is older children in the classes with the younger children. So your 12, 13-year-old will be in a class with 15-year-olds. That's not good either, in my opinion, because what happens then, the 15-year-olds, or, the ones that have been held back maybe 2 years, they're not interested in school. They're never going to be interested in school. They're only going to school because they can't leave yet legally. And they're going to influence your child. If your child is a child that's easily influenced, maybe lead them into bad ways like missing school, etc. But also your child then has got to pass all these exams, things they're just not interested in, and I just remember saying to my son, look, because now the good news is you only have to get a 5. So you don't have to, the pass mark is low, I think. As long as you get a 5, the mid mark, you're passed. And if you pass, I think, say it's 10 out of 12 subjects, you go up to the next year. But if you don't pass all those, you have to repeat the whole year, even though you might have passed 9 and failed 1. You have to repeat the whole year. Now, think about that. It's ridiculous. Personally, I think it's an absolute joke. But, and if your child's not interested in all those classes, depending on what your child's personality is, of course. Now, some children can sit through, and I used to say to my son, look, just sit. He could do it. He could pass it easily, but he was bored. And if he's, that's my son's personality as he was, and he's now really, if it's boring, he can't even sit through it. It's just like, I just said, just go through the motions. Just go through the motions and get your 5. You don't have to do brilliantly in the subjects you don't like. Like for him, it would be like Plastica and Musica. You still have to do those things. You don't get to choose your options like you do in the UK. I don't know if you still do. I presume you do. When I went to school back at 11, you chose the subjects. There were core subjects you had to do, like the English and maths. But the other subjects, you would choose the ones that you found the most interesting. And if you didn't want to do music, you didn't do music. It was just, but no, not in Spain. So you get a situation where children doing classes they are just not interested in. And bear in mind that these children now are coming into puberty. So it's the worst time to try and make them interested in something that they're not interested in. Now, in my experience as a teacher with teenagers, teenagers are either the fantastic students or terrible students, depending on how interested they are. I mean, I teach Spanish or English, and that's what I found. I've had teenagers who were, honestly, when they're interested in learning, they are just the joy to teach. But if they're not interested, just might as well forget it. I've actually turned around to parents and said, you are wasting your money. This child is not interested. And if they're not interested, they're never going to learn. And I'm being paid to teach these kids. But it's just pointless sometimes, and it's soul destroying for them and for me, to be honest, and financially draining for the parent. And that it's not going to work. So teenagers have to be interested. They're bright. Got inquiring minds in the things they are interested in. So if they're at high school age, my recommendation would be to send them to a private school then, if you possibly can, because in a private school they get more of a different kind of education. They'll have more choice about what they learn. They'll have is more of a British style. They don't get held back at the end of the year, but they've got good quality of education. And what I've seen is people who've sent their teenage children to international schools have had much better results than those that have sent their teenage children to Spanish high schools. Now, there'll always be exceptions. I'm not saying that everybody who goes, you have to work out what your child's personality is. Are they a person that could settle into that routine where they might be sat through classes that are a bit boring, but they'll just do the minimum that they have to do? Some children, some adolescents are more level than others, so I found that girls tend to be better, but I don't know if that's true or not, but it just feels that way. Girls tend to just get on with things, but boys tend to act out, when they're bored, or when they don't enjoy the subject. So that was my experience, let's say. So I'm just talking about not only my personal experience, but experience, as I say, of other children, from friends to people that I've taken to interpret for. Now, I remember I interpreted for one mother came to me, and the problem sometimes is as well, if you send your child to a Spanish school, if you don't speak Spanish, you can't communicate with the school. So when there is problems, I'm telling you now, it's hard enough when you do speak Spanish, trying to get things sorted at the school. I received no support for my son when he was going through problems at school. The school was just the high school. The attitude was just, well, if he doesn't want to come, then you can sign him out once he's 15 and blah blah. I was trying to get my son to school, who hated school, and they weren't helpful at all. So and I speak Spanish. Now, if you don't speak Spanish, you've got no chance. So I'd taken this woman once, I'll never forget, because I remember thinking, oh, this would never happen with my son. Famous last words, isn't it? Of course, you always think it won't happen to your children. And she said, the school have asked me to come in and need to take an interpreter. And I said, oh, well, what's going on? She said, oh, well, I don't know, because she said that normally my son, like the actual student at the school, he does the interpreting for me. And he said, oh, it's something and nothing. Yeah, because this is the trouble. When you don't speak Spanish, you've got to rely on your 14, 15-year-old who's having problems at school, in trouble at school, to tell you the truth about what's happening. We always think our children won't tell us lies, but they do. They do. Anyway, so off we went to this school. Anyway, it turned out this boy, he'd not been going to school. And she'd been taking him right to the doors of the school, because it was a little distance away, the school. It wasn't walking distance. And she'd been dropping him off at the school every morning, but he'd not been going in. God knows where he'd been going. And this is what the teachers wanted to talk about. So the boy, he was aghast when he saw she was taking an interpreter with her, because he's thinking, oh, well, I can just tell her anything. And this is what he would do. So the teachers would explain things to the mum, and she would just turn to the boy and go, what did she say? And he would just come out with a load of rubbish. Anyway, so we got to the bottom of it, and she could not believe it. And I know exactly how she feels. She was just, what do you mean he's not been coming into school? I've been dropping him off every day and picking him up. Where's he been then? Anyway, so it all came out. And then when he did rarely turn up to school, he was, just making a nuisance of himself and this, that, and the other. So, it wasn't a pleasant experience for that lady to hear all that about her son. I don't know how it all turned out in the end. Her son, as I say, he was really annoyed that she decided to take an interpreter with her and find out exactly what was going on instead of relying on him to tell her what was going on. So, these are the sort of things that can happen. So not only it's important for your child to learn Spanish, it's important for you to learn Spanish if you want to get to the bottom, or be prepared to take an interpreter. Because if you're going to put your child in a state school, you cannot rely on the fact somebody might be there who speaks English. There may be. The teacher might speak English, or the tutor or the head teacher. You may be lucky, but you cannot rely on that. If you come to Spain, you put your child in a Spanish school, you're in Spain and you can't rely on them to speak to you in English. They're going to speak in Spanish. So there you go. That would be my advice. If you're thinking about bringing children over to Spain to live, do your homework. First of all, you can always send me an email if you want to ask something. What do I think about, and I'll give you my opinion. And it is only my opinion. It's only my opinion from my experiences of people I've interpreted for, or my friends, etc. Every school is different. You might find a different kind of high school. Personally, I don't think, from what I can gather, they're all exactly the same. Now, it's a completely different system. Also, the method of teaching at the high school, it's not stimulating. It's just sit the kids down, write something on the board, the kids copy it out. To me, teenagers need more stimulation than that. They need their subject to be brought alive for them, to be made interesting. If you're interested in Spanish classes for your children, of course, get in touch with me. I can, I do Zoom classes or one-to-one classes here at the classroom, or, if you just want general advice on anything, just let me know. Also, just the next thing. So beware, because depending on where you move to as well, your region, like if you move to Catalonia, Barcelona over that way, it'll all be taught in Catalan. If you move to the Comunidad de Valencia, now anywhere in the Valencian community, your children will be taught in Valencian. The main word. That's a whole nother thing. This is a big debate in Spain at the moment that people aren't happy about. So yeah, bear in mind your area that you're moving to. But to me, if your children are young, put them in a state school. The colegios, the junior schools are brilliant. But if your child is ready to go to high school or is in high school, I would not advise a Spanish school. I would advise a private school if you have the means to do it. Obviously, it's a lot of money. But think about that when you're making your plans. Can you afford it? Because if your child is a teenager, that would definitely be the best for them. Also, they end up doing international GCSEs and things. So, the exams are more like, because you may end up going back to your country. You may end up, you don't like it in Spain. So I think you've always got to keep that in mind as well. If you're bringing a child to live in Spain and then maybe you're only coming for a year for the experience, or maybe you're coming here to learn Spanish. I've had students like that, an Icelandic family. The husband, the wife and the kids all came out just to learn Spanish for a year. So now they did put their children in state school because they were young enough to go into state school. But if you're coming over to Spain just for a year and your child's 14, well, they won't, they're not going to learn anything in that whole year. Will be wasted. You'd be better to put them in international school. And then they've not missed so much when they go back to their own country, wherever it is. So that would be my advice. I've got to go now. I've got some Spanish classes. But thank you for watching. And remember, please, if you want to join This is the link to join the channel. It's $2.99 a month, and you can ask any question, and at the end of the month I answer the question like this in a video. These are the members' questions. Other ways you can support my channel, of course, is just subscribing or pressing the like button. You can buy me a coffee here if you want to support my channel. And of course, any questions you have or any information you need, you can always email me at vickymariechats@gmail.com. So, thank you for watching. Gracias por mirar. Te veo muy pronto en el próximo video. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Y hasta entonces, que tu Dios vaya contigo. And until then, may your God always go with you. Gracias y hasta pronto.